Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Elements of Success. I'm Safriana Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. And as always, it's a delight to be here and talk about these things and teach and share and all of it. Today, we are talking about the energy of the Phoenix Rising and the art of sacred destruction. So I imagine it's going to be juicy. It's going to be a good one. So, just in case you don't know me, like I said, I'm Safriana Luna. I am a licensed trauma therapist turned transformational mentor. I have been doing spiritual ritual practices for 18 years now. And I just bring everything to the table as a teacher and a guide in the hopes that you can connect with your own definition of soul aligned success through these elements. So, how did your creative fire practice go from last week? So, there was an invitation to really step into embodying your creativity in some way, whether that be doing art, moving your body, cooking, tending the land. There were all kinds of different creative practices that you are welcome and encouraged to practice or try. And ideally, you're noticing pleasure as you're creating. Good morning, Nancy. Good to see you. Did you notice any blocks or resistance to creating? Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Um, this last week, I really focused on writing poetry. I had actually done a ceremony in person. And we were talking about exactly what we've been talking about in this fire series, which is channeling our willpower, applying our will towards something. And I decided I wanted to apply my will towards writing more poetry. So I've been really expressing myself in poetry. I have a new notebook that I'm writing my poems in, and I'm really focused in on expressing myself in that way so that the things I'm feeling aren't getting bottled up. And that is the purpose of creative expression and these fire practices, is to, as we're going to explore today, create and destroy. And sometimes we need to destroy or alchemize or transmute a feeling through some form of expression. So now we are going to talk about release. Oh, I love that. Lisa says she banged out a bunch of crochet. Beautiful. Yeah, like just keeping things moving really changes things so much. So let's go back in time for a moment here, right? Back, way back to before humankind even knew what fire was. And I just want you to take a moment to imagine what life must have been like. What life must have been like to not have fire to cook food, to not have electricity, to not have all of these things, combustion fuels that we now have, that we consider part of our everyday modern lives. It's a really interesting thought experiment to think about what was life like before fire, other than the sun, right? We had the fire from the sun and that grew things, but not much else. So it's our greatest discovery. It's also one of our greatest responsibilities. Fire has changed everything for our species, from warmth and protection to the ability to cook. We still gather around fires to create community and invite storytelling. We're getting ready to do a bonfire for Halloween. And good to see you too, Amy. Fire created community. It brought us together and it invited these opportunities. And I hope everybody watching has had the experience of sitting around a campfire at some point in time and feeling the warmth and feeling that sense of protection and vitality and all of this. Yes, we all need a little Phoenix rising right now. So, fire began to enable us to shape metal, to create tools, to actually build what we now know as civilizations. Before that, we were, small groups, tribes. And there's just so much that's changed because of this. So we have harnessed fire as electricity, fuel, power, etc. So what a wonderful thing. Let's acknowledge it and be grateful for it. And yet, it is the same power that transforms that can also destroy. Our society has been equally creative and destructive with fire, and it's It's our responsibility as stewards of the planet and our communities to be intentional about our destruction and consumption. And oh my gosh, what just divine timing. I was literally just live with Dr. Melissa Bird for our 8 days mini series, and we were talking about extraction, the energy of extraction. And, consumption is kind of that. And so, how do we consume and extract and destroy in a far more conscious way, because we have to live. That's the kicker of being alive, my friends, is you have to eat, you have to have warmth to survive in certain cases. So we have to consume and destroy to some extent, but we can do it so much more ethically. That's my big thing. So I just want you to really play with this both and. Fire is both the creator and the destroyer. Forest fires are actually important when they can happen naturally and without the extra levels of chaos that we have created. Forest fires clear dead growth and they return nutrients to the soil. But when they get out of hand because our environment has changed so much that they can't even operate the way that they once did, it's a problem. And then we extract too much water and things can't stay in balance, right? So it was a good thing. It's become more of an imbalanced thing. Fever burns away illness in the body, right? When you get sick, you get hot because you're burning away. Your body is attempting to burn away what it needs to release. Obviously, again, kind of a both and here. Forge fire transforms raw metal into tools. With that has come so many things for creation: hammers, nails, but also weapons, swords, guns, etc. And so there's a both and here. Cooking makes food digestible and in many cases safe. There's not much of a downside to that other than, yeah, sure, you can overburn your food and make it a little carcinogenic. But in many cases, fire is needed to make our food safe. And smoke cleanses sacred space and shifts energy. So I love a good smoke cleansing practice, but just like Dr. Bird and I were talking about, we want to be conscious in what we're burning. And if we are not of the closed community using white sage to smudge, we should not be smudging. We are smoke cleansing. We are saning. We are doing some form of ancestral practice when we burn. And I encourage you to look into that. But smoke cleansing is a beautiful practice and I love it. It really does shift the energy so much. So as I was saying, there's practices from all across the world for burning. And so I just want to point out a couple of these. Fire, smoke cleansing, and burning ceremonies all over the place. We've got indigenous North American traditions. That's the biggest example because white sage and smudging, again, smudging itself is a closed practice, has been used by Native American traditions, and white capitalistic spirituality has come in and kind of co-opted a lot of that. So I'm sharing this for both the history and the ethics, as well as for you to consider your own traditions. But North American traditions also included sweetgrass, cedar, and tobacco. Cedar, all over the world. In Celtic traditions, there was the burning of sacred woods and herbs, and there were Beltane and Samhain fires. In Hindu traditions, there's the Havan and fire offerings, burning camphor. In Buddhist traditions, there's incense offerings and burning prayer papers. In the African diaspora traditions, there's burning herbs to invoke ancestors and spirits and seek blessings and carry prayers. There is some smoke-like practice, fire burning practice everywhere globally. So burning things can be so transmutive, and it's across humanity that since the discovery of fire, we have wanted to play with this alchemizing element of fire. So there's the thing that none of us want to talk about, which is appropriation versus appreciation. And it's really uncomfortable. And gosh, I just love the synchronicities here. When we learn from others' cultural, spiritual practices, it's essential that we respect and acknowledge where these practices came from. We're not here to reduce us all down and whitewash who we are, because human history is far more complex than that. What ends up causing harm is not, I have an indigenous friend who invited me to a ceremony and I was taken in and brought in as a part of the family, whether ongoing or temporarily, and I was able to participate in these practices because I was invited. And what causes harm, which is claiming ownership, commodifying sacred practices, capitalizing on traditions. Well, the original practitioners face discrimination or even criminalization. In so many cases, it is still illegal for Indigenous people, for people of color, so our BIPOC friends. It's still illegal for some of them to practice some of their cultural lineage, their ancestry, their practices that have been passed down because of silly capitalistic and colonialism and imperialism and patriarchy and all that. So we get to be spiritually unlimited and have our own sacred practices while not claiming ownership and commodifying other people's practices. That's the core of it. So our responsibility is to honor the source, acknowledge the history, share the credit, and don't claim expertise you haven't earned. And I can just hear Dr. Bird here right now in my ear. Like, expertise is kind of a myth anyway. Like, we're never, ever, 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 ever going to be fully an expert at anything. So maybe just don't claim to be an expert. Just know what you know and share what you know and share credit and acknowledge history. Go do a little more research. So there is a difference between appreciation versus appropriation. And we can learn, practice respectfully, and always acknowledge where the wisdom comes from and not do things that we haven't been invited to that belong to other cultures. So, the phoenix myth. We all love a good phoenix, right? And the phoenix has been in so many of our stories and our myths and our legends for a reason. It's a very powerful being to imagine. The phoenix dies in flames and rises from its own ashes. So we have this in Egyptian stories, Chinese, Persian, Greek, so many different cultures and histories that share the story of the firebird, the phoenix. And the phoenix teaches us that we have to let what is old die in order for transformation to happen. The phoenix teaches us that we cannot become who we are meant to be if we are still clinging to the past of who we were. The phoenix teaches that the courage to burn is the courage to transform, to alchemize, to become something new. And rising from the ashes means being reborn with the wisdom that came before. So it's not a fresh restart. It's a taking what was gained in the old cycle and bringing it into the new cycle. And death and rebirth are natural cycles, not failures. Again, love the synchronicities. As I'm teaching this live, we are literally going into Samhain season, which is the season of death and rebirth. So it's perfect time to look at our phoenix self. And I will invite you into a little practice at the end today to connect with Phoenix, and we'll do a little meditation. But for right now, just planting the seed that the Phoenix really is the sacred symbol of destruction, sacred destruction, as alchemy, as becoming something completely new. So, why do we resist and what needs to burn? You know, we resist a lot as humans. There's so much that makes us uncomfortable. And there are a lot of common fears that we have around ending, because I think we fear that we're going to end up alone, right? We fear that we're going to be all on our own. We're not going to have help. We're not going to have support. And so we will cling to our status quo in order to feel some semblance of control. But there's a lot here. So common fears that keep us from necessary endings: fear of loss, grief, and the unknown; attachment to our old identity and who we've been; comfort in the familiar, even when it no longer serves; and worry about disappointing others or being judged. So we'll like grab on to who we used to be because we're terrified if we become who we really are or where we're going next, that we're gonna lose everything. We're gonna be alone. And this is a hard thing. I have uh, been through the ending of two really long-term relationships. Not really long-term. I've been through the ending of two relationships that were more than 5 years, where we'd had homes together and, um, built a life together and had finances together. I have been through letting go of family members who could not respect my boundaries. I have let go of careers that were draining me. I know how hard it is to let go. So I just want to like really emphasize that letting go of the past and moving into the present and the future is not an easy thing, but it's a necessary thing on the path to really being who we're here to be. You're not here to play small and stay silent and wear a costume of some other version of you. So today you get to invite in your phoenix and see where some of that old needs to go, where you need to be reborn from the ashes. So signs it's time to let something burn away. You have an outdated belief that is limiting your growth. It's actually holding you back. You're looping a particular thought or belief or story that is just it's keeping you stuck. That's something to let go of. If you have relationships that are draining you and you don't feel like you're getting that reciprocity, probably time to burn it away and let it go. If there are roles that you've outgrown, but you keep performing them. So, I think about in middle school and high school, I was the kid that did the most in the projects, and I would show up and I would just overdo it. Uh, and I kind of noticed as recently as like a year ago that I was still showing up and doing the most in collaborations, that I was being in collaborations that weren't honoring me back. And I was just, performing that role of being the good little overworker. So when you outgrow being the dutiful wife, when you outgrow being the people pleaser, the codependent, the good girl, the pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, when you are ready to outgrow those roles, it's time to let them burn. And yeah, just out of 36 years, just finding myself again. Exactly. When we and bless, right? Like when the longer that we're in a particular pattern, the harder it can be to move out of it. I really want to acknowledge that from a psychology standpoint, because I am very woo, but I'm very grounded. And I believe that there is some truth to the meat suit, the body, and our biology takes a little bit of time sometimes to catch up with what we're mentally, emotionally, spiritually processing. And in the therapy world, when it comes to trauma, there is a theory that it takes about a month of work, self work, to completely move through a trauma that lasted about a year. So when we are leaving a relationship that's not been healthy, when we are leaving a career, when we are just letting go of a big thing, trying to heal from trauma that maybe happened for years when we were children. It takes months, like it does. And I don't love the teachings that are like, just do this technique and it'll be completely gone and you won't worry about it anymore. Yes. Yes and no. You can move beyond it immensely in a short period of time, but your body and your biology are going to still take a little time to catch up, and it's okay. That's why we need to have these sacred rituals of releasing and acknowledging what we're letting go of and calling in the new. We have to kind of come in and out of the ebb and flow of the shadow work and the light work and the healing and the resting. Like there's a balance to this. So I just want to normalize that. Anywho, habits that numb us rather than nourish us. This is something we want to burn. If we're noticing we're leaning on a particular habit that every time we do it, we feel drained, it might be time to let it go. And then identities that no longer feel true. And this is something that's really, as a queer person, I want to speak to this real quick. Most of us don't question our identity at all. We're raised in a cis heteronormative society. Nothing wrong with cis or hetero, for the record. But because of that, we aren't really taught to question who we are. We're usually given a role, like socialized aggressively as a girl or boy in school. You're going to grow up and you're going to be a dad. You're going to be a mom. You're going to be a worker. You're going to be a this. You're going to be a that. You're going to literally, like, you're going to be a Christian. You're going to be a Muslim. You're going to be a this, like things that have been passed down to us. And one of the things that I love about being queer uh, is that I kind of couldn't help but start to question things. Like I didn't for a long time, and there was a lot of shame and guilt and all that stuff. But then I was like, well, something feels off. I need to question it. And if you've never been given permission to question anything about who you are, do you even really know who you are? So I celebrate that many queer people or LGBTQIA people have that experience of like, they feel that there's something about them that is not dominant society. So they actually question it. I think we should all question it. We should all question, what is my spiritual expression? What is my way of showing up in the world and wanting to dress and express myself? You know, who am I? Who do I love? What is my connection to nature or to God or the divine? Like, what are you? Who are you? So these identity pieces, like, if they don't feel like us, maybe we burn them away, but maybe we also make spaciousness to question them in the first place and just feel into, like, is this me? Is this who I am? Or is this something that's been passed on to me and I've been told this is the one right way to be? We're all unique. So you are not meant to stay the same forever. Another great note. You are not who you were last year or even yesterday. So even on that note, like with my queer identity, and again, this is not, I am not converting anybody. There's no queer agenda, blah, blah, blah. But I have literally transformed in how I view my identity every few years. Like I'll discover a new word and I'm like, that actually, I like that word. That really fits who I am right now. And then another 2 years, 3 years go by and I'm like, no, I actually, these days I'm more this. Labels can be great. They can also be confusing, but labels are meant as an exploration. They're meant as a identifier so we can find people who might be interested in talking about those things with us or being a part of a group of commonality with each other. But we get to change our labels. We get to change what we identify with. We get to constantly be transforming. So, again, just because that's the example I'm on, in my journey, I first identified as straight as a child because that's what I was told I was going to be. And I was going to grow up and I was going to marry a boy and I was going to have babies. And then I hit middle school and I was like, I think I like girls. Am I allowed to do that? And I got a lot of socialization that I was not, in fact, allowed to do that. So then I re-identified as straight until I was in my mid-20s. And then I was like, I think I'm pansexual. I think I love people regardless of their gender. I just love them. And then I got into my 30s and I was like, no, gender does play a role for me. Bisexual fits more because I'm attracted to someone and their gender plays a role. So this exploration of like relearning who we are is an ongoing process, and you may be constantly changing. Again, I'm just using that example. You could have a spiritual awakening. You could realize the career you started in is the career that's not for you. You could get married and think you want to start a family, and then COVID hits and you go, maybe I don't want to raise kids. Like, so much in life can happen. And if we think we're stuck in being one way, it's not going to work out well for us. So remember that you are not even who you were yesterday. You have more information, you have more perspective, more experience, all of that. And our growth requires us to release these outdated versions of ourselves. It requires us to let go. And that honoring means really like honoring our past is also honoring the old you that brought you here, right? Your past self had to exist for you to be here right now. So every version of you deserves gratitude and release because you are not that you anymore. And letting the old stuff, the old self, the old junk turn to ash is not you rejecting the past. It's you allowing it to transform and alchemize and become something new. and you get to consciously choose what you carry forward. So many people, when I do like really in-depth parts work, they get really scared that letting go means a part of them is going to die, and they're going to change fundamentally. They're going to forget this awful thing that happened to them, and it's going to happen all over again. Whoa, lots of fear, right? When we consciously choose what we're carrying forward and we consciously choose to let go, it's not a one and done process either. It's a continually coming back and supporting ourselves to know, like, I'm letting go of that. Speaking of old bad relationships, I was in a relationship for many years, one of these long-term relationships I had to unhook from. And it made me question everything about my life because the relationship was so tangled up. And it took me years of consciously going, you're no longer in my life. I am not impacted by you. You have no say. You are no longer in my life. I am free and clear of this. And like consciously cutting cords and doing little rituals to let go, to burn and release. And I used to get really frustrated with myself. I'd be like, why are you not over this yet? Why are you still thinking about that person? Why is this still on your heart? Why do you still feel bad about that? Because we need to actually feel our feelings to let them go. So feel the fullness and remember that you're allowed to come back and release again. You're allowed to let go again. You're allowed to consciously, intentionally say, I see that and I am choosing to let it go. I love clear and free, or cancel, clear, delete as these little mental, like, letting go of that. After we've consciously acknowledged that it's not for us, that's important too. But just as we've learned that we can be aligned in our creation, there's also aligned destruction. And destruction can become aligned action when it is actually creating more space in your life. So, what I mean by this is when you say no, you are making space for what you want. You are preserving energy, time, resources for your actual priorities. So, no can feel destructive, right? Nope, not for me. You're cutting something off. You're saying no, thereby destroying that opportunity. But you're also saying, I want my energy for something else. And that's important to acknowledge. Actively letting go is very different than passively holding on. And this is why I said, check in. Is this still for me? Is there still a lesson here that I need to sit with? Is there still something I haven't processed? If the answer is yes, then you sit with it more. You process it more. You talk about it. You dance about it. You create about it. You do something with it. If you're genuinely like, yeah, I've I've walked this road. I've taken in what I need to take in, but it's just that like subconscious coming to the surface, right? Because it's underneath the surface and it comes up to our consciousness. You can consciously release it rather than trying to just cast it away from your mind and pretend it's not there, which is passively holding on. I think it's much better to consciously say, hi, I see you. I'm letting you go. When we are confronted with something from our past that it's not for us anymore. We really did get what we needed from it. And aligned endings complete what's ready to be completed with intention. I love a good ending. A good ending clears up the energy to be used for something else. So when you let go of something, you destroy something, you make space, you end. You are saying, I have completed this. My intention has been met. And therefore, I have all of this resource back to me to move on to the next thing. And I really do see setting boundaries as a form of sacred destruction, because you're burning away what depletes you and not letting something into your boundary, your bubble that is actively draining you. So it's almost like your boundary. You could even imagine your boundary as a ring of fire around you. And it's like any of that stuff I don't want that is coming into my boundary is just going to get burned away. Let it go. Let's talk about emotions now, because we're going to be talking about emotions in the water arc, but this one, fire, is so associated with anger and rage that I couldn't pass it up. So I want to talk about these emotions and health. So healthy anger is so important. And our society has done some really funky things with us and anger. So I bet a majority of you probably would agree, not really agree, but agree, that it was very normal for men to be angry and for that to be like the one emotion that they really displayed, because that's the dominant society I live in, where unfortunately men who experience emotions other than anger are like shamed for it. And it's really, really weird. And then on the other hand, women are not supposed to be angry at all. They are supposed to be dutiful and blah, 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 right? It's all this programming. Anger, healthy anger is our whoa, stop. Healthy anger is a sign that a boundary has been crossed and we need to put up a boundary. So when we feel our healthy anger, it's actually cueing us up. It shows a limit has been crossed. It reveals what we value and care about. It gives us an energy to go out and protect ourselves and make a change. And it teaches us to honor our needs and speak the truth. There is a very big difference between yelling at somebody and taking our anger out on them and assessing, feeling the anger rising and tuning into it and going, ooh, what's this anger telling me? Yeah, they really crossed that line. Okay, what do I need to do about that? I need to go tell them that this was not okay and make a request of what they do next time, right? It's the teaching us to honor our needs and speak our truth, but that does not mean screaming at someone or belittling or berating. And this is where I think we get so confused. So again, anger is showing you my boundary has been violated. It's an invitation to go within and assess, and then to come out and speak your truth, not by taking it out on somebody, but by being able to use that emotion as information. And too many people just, kind of spout off. They get mad, they get pissed, and they just take it out. And that's what most of us think of when we think of anger. Grief, another thing we don't love to feel, but is so important and universal, and we need to allow ourselves to feel, is grief. Grief burns away attachment to what was. And oh gosh, isn't that tender, right? When someone passes away, our grief is literally processing the attachment to what was. We are looking back, right? Grieving is for the living. And what has changed because something is different. Someone has passed away. An opportunity has been lost. There's been a disaster. Things have changed. And so grief informs us of our responses to the change. But grief also makes space for new growth. Through the release of loss, when we actually can express our full grief, we can feel our full grief, we can really mourn what was, then we also can make new space for what can come in. I think about this 36 years in a relationship and the grief, and I'm sure anger, but the grief that comes with the loss of all of the dreams that you thought were going to come true and all the possibilities and all of that. Like, these kinds of things can be so heavy. But then can we hold that both, and the grief and what this loss is making space for? What is it reorienting us to? Sometimes with the loss of a loved one, it is like, well, what life lessons did they teach me? Or how do I want to live my life that honors the significance of what you're letting go, the significance of a person? How many people I've seen lives transform because they lose a parent that they were very close to, or a sibling, and they literally transform their way of being in the world to honor that person and what they really learned from that person. And it's so important to remember that grief connects us to our depth and capacity of love. We would not grieve if we did not love. We would not grieve and feel bad about the loss of a relationship or the loss of life or the loss of an opportunity if we didn't love that person, that opportunity. So we really need to let ourselves feel our grief. And then passion. And I could talk about passion because there was a woman I met in a coaching community once upon a time who really wanted to tell me not to use the word passion anymore because passion means like what you're willing to die for, she said. And I'm like, that doesn't change my mind, actually. What are you willing to live for? What are you willing to die for? What really matters to your soul is your passion. And when you align with your passions, it does provide you energy and motivation to take those aligned actions. And it reveals what's underneath the conditioning. So, passion can be a fire that burns away the conditioning and reveals what's underneath. My passion is writing. My passion is ritual and teaching. My passion is making the world a better place for everyone. And yes, I would live and die by all of these things. So your passion can be a really important fuel for your fire. And again, a means to help you discover what you might need to burn away. Because if you're not passionate about something, if it doesn't truly matter to your soul, why are you doing it? And then rage. So rage is like even above anger. Like to me, anger is someone did something to me and I'm angry about it because they crossed my line. Rage for me, and I invite you to look at your own relationship, is more collective. It's bigger. It's justice and humanity or planet oriented. So, like, I feel a lot of rage about our current political situation. I feel rage about genocide. I feel rage about mass starvation. I feel rage about our lack of universal health care. I feel a lot of rage about a lot of things, and that is fuel for necessary change. So, collective rage against injustice drives social transformation. That's why you see right now people getting in the streets and saying, we don't want kings, no kings, right? Because rage about how things are happening. Personal rage can show you where you have betrayed yourself. So if you're like beyond angry, you're really deeply enraged, maybe you have betrayed yourself in some way. You have let yourself down. And when we allow ourselves to experience our sacred rage, it burns away complicity and complacency. In other words, we're not willing to engage in the system in the way we were before. You know, another great conversation I was just having with Dr. Bird is about AI and complicity and complacency with AI would potentially look like just full engaging with it all the time, not thinking about it, not considering the impacts, not doing a damn thing other than just being like, yep, y'all do you. Versus when we are consciously making a choice to use something like AI, where are we complacent with the harm? Where are we complicit with the harm? Where are we improving? Where are we reducing? Where are we not extracting? So, I've been in this with my own relationship with AI in the past, and I got really enraged at some points because I was using AI a lot in the very early days of my business, and I still use it to some extent, and you can't avoid it. It's everywhere. But also, how do we consciously touch base with it? And how do we make decisions that have the least harmful impact? And so I got very angry and very enraged with myself when I saw the damage in the system, what AI was capable of, and what it was doing to creators and authors and whatnot. And that changed how I was relating to and using the tool. So it can be as simple as that. Like, where can our rage help us move out of complicity and complacency with systems that are causing harm, whether it be politics, AI, healthcare, something in your neighborhood? And our rage also channels our activism into art. And through that, well, it channels art, it channels into activism, it channels into art, it channels into truth telling, activist art. That's my poetry, right? Like, our rage can do so many good things for us if we let ourselves feel it. And I know these are difficult emotions, but our emotions can fuel transformation when we let them move. And that is part of like destruction. When an emotion is felt, all of our emotions are temporary. Every single one of our emotions is transitory. It's moving through. But when we let ourselves feel them, they kind of like they destroy themselves in their own way. They become a phoenix. They rise from the ashes. They become something else. So it's important for us to remember that they're not bad. In fact, all of our emotions are catalysts for change. They might indicate something that we're ready to burn away. They might indicate something we're ready to embrace. If you suppress your emotions, they dam up your life force energy. They literally will make you feel stuck. So it's important to let them move so that they don't get stuck. And expressing them creates space for what's next, right? The destruction of one emotion by feeling it and letting it process and alchemize all the way through gives you space for something else. And the key is to let them burn through you, not burn you up. Let the emotions burn through you, not burn you up. So, what I mean by that is feel them move through you, let them come, let them rise, and let them out. Not taking them out on people, but expressing them, moving your body, writing, art, journaling, whatever you want to do. Not be bottled up and burn you from the inside out, because that's not fun. They are energy that wants to move. They are not to be suppressed or stored. Again, emotions are constantly shifting, moving, so let them move. So some simple rituals. If you are looking to release, to destroy, to burn, you can write your releases down and then burn or bury them. I have done both, but I love fire. I love burning things. Move your body to your emotions. Create something that expresses what's alive in you. These are the simplest you can get to let something out. And we will explore more ways to work with emotional cycles and rhythms in the water arc, which is where we're going. But right now, honor that your emotions can fuel your transformation as long as they are not hidden away. So that's why we got to let them be. And again, it's so normal to feel afraid of letting things go or of letting things burn. So here are some tips for that. Start small. Release one small thing first. So let's say you're letting go of an old career, you're letting go of an old relationship. Maybe there's some objects that you've been holding on to, searching for meaning in. Maybe you could let one of those objects go. Maybe you can let one belief go, or one memory go, or one something go. Not all of it at once. It's so important to create support and not let things go on your own exclusively. It can be fine to have a little ritual and do a release and a cord cutting and a burning and all of that. But then to lean back into community and be able to say, oh, I released this and it's really heavy, or it was really heavy and now I feel great. To integrate the work you've done, it kind of has to come up and out of you beyond just yourself. And then honoring your grief, like let yourself grieve. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how many people I have seen battle grief, battle their mourning, battle having a sad feeling to the point where they're just like automatons walking around and really miserable, because again, it's burning up in them. It's not burning through them, it's burning up in them. So it's so important that if you are feeling loss, if you're feeling sad, you're feeling grief around things that you're letting go, mourn it. You loved it, whatever it was, person, place, thing. So let it go, mourn. And trust the cycle. Death always precedes rebirth. So that's, we've talked about clearing away and opening more space. And all of that is here. When you trust the cycle, you're letting go of something. That means you are making room for something new. The rebirth can happen. And I'm very tired of resilience. As a resilient human being, we can't help but be resilient in this society right now. So we can be tired, but also remember our resilience and that we have survived every single ending before this one. And we will survive many more endings before our ending. And finally, connect to what you're gaining, not just what you're losing. This is a little harder with the loss of an actual life, like losing a loved one. It's hard to imagine what we're gaining after losing a loved one, but maybe it's spiritual connection to them. Maybe we're gaining even more appreciation for life. Maybe we're gaining more appreciation for friendship, right? We can gain from loss pretty much always, but it just might be a slight orientation shift versus like a breakup. We might be like, oh, I'm gaining freedom and I'm gaining all my time back and I'm gaining my energy and my health and my this and my that, right? So every situation's different, but connect Connect in to what is being gained by you burning this away. I'm glad I delivered the message you most needed to hear, whatever it was. So let's go ahead and drop in for a moment of meditation here before I give you your Phoenix practice. But I think we're going to go connect with Phoenix now. We can't help it. So your eyes can be opened or closed. This is your experience, but just inviting you to tune into your breath here for a moment. And just feel the inhale and the exhale. As you inhale, taking in energy, taking in oxygen. As you exhale, releasing, destroying that oxygen in its own way, becoming CO2, the sacred destruction of the breath on the exhale. Inhale, creation. Exhale, destruction. This is such an uncomfortable part of human reality that we must destroy in order to live, that we must destroy in order to create. So let yourself soften here, breathing with the concept of destruction and softening around it, imagining that all destruction can be done with the highest consciousness, the highest intentions, and that you get to transform your relationship with what it means to end something, to say no, to have a boundary, or even to physically burn something. And as you breathe here, let's invite in Phoenix spirit. Inviting in Phoenix spirit, perhaps seeing, sensing, knowing that Phoenix is with you. Taking in whatever details of this bird are here, noticing the colors of its feathers, noticing how they hold themselves, just noticing what you notice, sensing what you sense about the energy of Phoenix. And then just getting curious here, is there something in you that you are ready to release? Some thought, feeling, belief, some outdated way of being, a relationship, a career? Is there something you're ready to release today? And if you know something specific you're ready to release, I invite you to hand it over to this Phoenix guide now. And if nothing particular comes up, I invite you to hand over just the sense of any burdens, any heaviness to this Phoenix. Handing over whatever's heavy, whatever you're ready to release, handing it over, offering it to this Phoenix guide. And then witnessing, observing, sensing as this Phoenix takes whatever you've given them, takes it into their body, maybe into their heart. And this Phoenix flies up. You see the flame arcing through the air. You can feel the heat. And as the Phoenix flies up, there is a brilliant flash of light as the whole bird goes up in flames. And with it, you feel the alchemy. You feel the transformation of what you're releasing, beginning to turn to tiny, fine particles like gold and glitter. The sparks, the embers float up through the air. You can feel your energy loosening, your emotions softening, your body softening. Releasing, releasing, releasing in this brilliant light. And then the ashes fall to the ground. They settle, this big pile of ashes. What once was. And if you need to, take a moment here to just feel your grief, to feel the loss of what you're letting go of. Acknowledging the emotions that are here. And then shifting your attention once more back to that pile of ashes as you see a tiny little beak begin to poke up and through the ashes. And then a tiny little wing and another little wing. And up sits a baby phoenix, looking bright and new. What are you gaining? What's possible for you as you release here today, whatever burden you're holding? And see that reflected back from this phoenix. Maybe even take some moments here to listen and see if this newly born phoenix has any messages for you. And just breathing, inhaling, calling yourself back home, calling all your power back to center. Exhaling, letting go of anything that's not yours, anything that belongs to other people, to systems, letting it go. And then just take a moment of gratitude for this little baby phoenix, for the phoenix that held your burdens, for the phoenix that shows you the way, knowing you can have your own alchemical process anytime, dropping into yourself. And then gently, with gratitude, thanking Phoenix, thanking yourself. If your eyes are closed, you can blink them open. And take a moment to look around your space, do a little no tiger twist. Let yourself know you are not in danger. You are not running from a tiger. So I hope your little Phoenix friend can be one that you can tune back into. And that's actually your invitation this week. Your invitation this week is to take what we just did in that very brief meditation. That was super brief. And go apply this. Go actually do this for yourself. So identify, what do you need to burn? Beliefs, roles, relationships, habits, an old identity, an old way of being. Write that shit down. Put it on a piece of paper. Name it specifically. I like to vent it out like a dump page and just get it all out. You might choose to read it out loud to give voice to what you're letting go, or you might not. You might choose to skip this step, feel into this one, but reading it out loud is really acknowledging like where you've been. And then burn it safely. So if you can't burn it, tear it, and then hold it and visualize burning it, but burn it ideally, right? Let the ashes form, let the smoke rise to the heavens, like let it out. There's something magical about fire and how it transforms things that's really fun to play with. But again, be safe. And then sit with the ashes, honor what was before you just blaze forward. So look at those ashes, like remember what was, feel a little sad. I just burned some stuff from a family member the other day and I felt very sad. And then plant the intentional energetic seeds of what you're calling in and name your new becoming. So this is more, I like to blow the ashes out into the land and imagine that seeds are being planted. I like to visualize a new seed being planted and me nurturing it. However you want to do this, but now is the time. Okay, what am I calling it? And this is where I definitely would use your voice. Name your new becoming. With this space I've cleared, I am calling in more aligned friendships. I'm calling in a better partnership. I'm making space for myself, like name it, give it a voice. And really, like you could connect with Phoenix. So, what conscious release and sacred destruction makes possible is again, you're going to free your energy for what really matters, get clarity on your authentic path, make space for new relationships and opportunities, permission to become who you're really meant to be, relief from carrying what was never yours to carry in the beginning, like all of these things that are passed down, these old sticky things. Alignment with your current values and your desires, remembering you're constantly changing. And of course, that courage to keep evolving and growing. So again, all of this is stuff you can sit with. You can sit with that Phoenix guide. You can sit with Phoenix medicine. You can meditate. You can visualize. You can play. You can burn. Have some fun, my friends. Like, I really think we need to change our relationship with destruction and make it more conscious and intentional, right? Every time you eat, you are destroying something. So, how can we more consciously consume? How can we more consciously destroy, intentionally destroy in a way that is as peaceful and positively impactful for all the planet? That includes ourselves. So, really making choices from a heart centered place. And I'm so glad that this was helpful today. You are so welcome. Let's talk about where we're going next. So, we have one more fire episode, which is maintaining our flame. We'll be talking about sustaining our aligned actions and building systems for ourselves to create consistency, how to recognize when you're out of alignment so that you can course correct, and why it's so important for us to rest so we don't burn out, as well as like a personal energy restoration kit, and really thinking about aligned action as a lifelong practice. Again, releasing and destruction is also a lifelong practice. Those old memories are going to creep back in. That old habit's going to creep back in. Some awful thing that happened to you as a kid is going to creep back in. That is the way our brains work and human nature works. So if we can consciously turn towards it and say, I see you, and you're not for me anymore, and I'm lovingly letting you go again, cancel, clear, delete, or whatever practice we have, we can let these things go in such a different way. So I love you all so much. I believe in you. I'm cheering you on. I know that the sacred destruction work isn't easy, but it is part of being human and being on this planet at this time. So let's all consciously move forward in love together, in intention and integrity, and let go of what really is not for you. Let's stop agreeing to be complicit and complacent and all of that. Let's stop and make room for really standing in our power and doing what we love and what lights us up. I think we can really change the world that way. So I love you all so much. See you next time for our final fire episode. And as always, I'm right here if you need me. Don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Until next time, my friends, I'm Safriana. Bye for now.